Hello, Belmin. Thank you for joining me for this interview. Really appreciate your time. How are you?
Thank you, man. Appreciate you for having me. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. So let's begin with the reason I invited you on is because I saw a 2K win from you, 2K euros in the wins channel. And that's something we can go into later. But to begin with, I'd like to know your backstory of what your life was like before joining the real world.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good question. Um, so I joined the real world like a year ago, almost to the T, like a year ago. Before then, I was studying uh, business management here in Antwerp, in Belgium. And actually, I have been studying that for like, let's say 3 years or something. I started university. Didn't think that was it, right? Because I always wanted to make money on my own. That was always the goal. I just thought at that point, university is the solution for me. Like, university is going to give me the skills, the knowledge to make that money. That's what I believed back then. Then university wasn't it. So I went to like college, as you would call it. Um, and it was all right. Like the first year, I learned some things, some practical stuff. But man, in the second year and the third year, you start to feel like I started to notice like this is useless. I just felt like I wasn't learning anything, um, which was weird because I thought like the knowledge was gonna go get better and better the longer you, or like the more you approach the end of your, let's say, study. That wasn't the case, and then COVID hit, and that's when like the entrepreneurial journey started for me personally. But I didn't start with what I do now back then. Back then, it was private labeling and e-commerce. So I started in e-commerce, like you have this kind of platform called bol.com here in Belgium. That's basically like Amazon, but a little bit smaller scale, a little bit more local, but it's still pretty big here. So I started doing that. And yeah, that actually, it went well in a sense, but now I realize all the lessons that they failed to teach in that community where I was in then. And maybe like a lot of people that are doing e-commerce could relate to this, but like profit and turnover are not the same thing. So I was, I think, 18 or 19 back then, and I turned over 35K, which is pretty cool, like at 18, but I made an 8K loss. So I basically lost all the savings that I had that I used to start that business. So, yeah, so that was interesting. And I was actually trying to come up with a new plan for e-commerce, for a new business. That was before I joined the real world, which was then Hustlers University. But it's funny how all these things went. But then at the same time, like simultaneously, I was just, watching podcasts, watching YouTube stuff, and I became familiar with Tate, with Andrew Tate, slowly. And back then, I didn't know anything about Hutch University. I was just doing my thing, doing studies, trying to make a business plan for this grand new e-commerce thing that was going to save my life. And yeah, then I just came across a YouTube community post of Andrew Tate. And I back then I didn't know anything about Hutch University at all. So it was just basically, I don't remember what the angle exactly was, but I felt the urgency. And I was astonished. Like it was only $50. So I was 50, like it felt weird to me. It felt really weird. So I just joined without thinking. And I thought I'll figure it out. So I joined, and I didn't really think about it very much. I just did what I had to do. So I got into Hustlers University back then, which was only, I think, 6K members at that point. And you had to choose your skill based on like how time rich you are and how money rich you are. Back then, I was basically time rich, but I was money poor. So I got assigned to copywriting. And back then it was only just like a couple videos and posts in like a tutorial channel. So it's completely different from what it's now. And I just started going through the motions, started taking action, but I didn't take it that seriously yet. It was just like, okay, I'll see what it does, right? And I just kept going. And then and this is like a common theme with a lot of guys, is when you get your first sales calls, right? And I didn't close, I think, until the fifth one or fourth one or something. But it was very weird to me. It was so weird because I remember having that first sales call that I closed and I actually made money. And that's when I realized, like, I just felt weird. Like, you make money from thin air, basically. And at that point, I started taking it way more seriously. And I basically started investing all my time into this. And that was like, I think 3 months in, something like that. Something like that, yeah. And then I just started investing all my time into it. And it just snowballed, man. Um, yeah, it just snowballed, started growing slowly, just started growing. And yeah, eventually I just noticed how it just keeps compounding, and until the point I am now, where I actually eventually I just quit college altogether. I always wanted to quit, right? I always wanted to quit. I just thought e-commerce would be the way for me, but it wasn't. And now I realize like how important it is to have a skill instead of a business first, which like HU is like perfect for, right? So yeah, that's basically how I came to how where I am now. So now I've quit college and I'm basically doing this full time. And yeah, it's pretty weird because I was like in what you would call dorms, I believe, for people in college. So I moved back home to focus on this, and now I'm like leaving to Thailand for in 2 weeks for to live there. So basically, I went from like a college student, didn't make any money at all, and now like 1 year later, and I'm like completely like I make my own money. Like I'm completely location independent, which is maybe the most amazing thing ever. Like I can be wherever I want, and I like literally like in 2 weeks I'm moving to Thailand in like a 1 year span, which is really crazy. So I think yeah, that's basically it.
A lot to dive into there. So, what was the mindset when you first joined? You said you went into copywriting, but you had all that experience with ecom. So, were you
Yes.
thinking you'll make some money with copywriting and then go on to ecom, or was it different?
Um, I really didn't think that much through. All I did was just follow what I was supposed to do. I think I believe like a lot of people overthink when they join, and I mean you literally have like millionaires telling you what to do, and I just followed what they did, what they told me to do. So I just followed exactly what I had to do, and it just snowballed. And eventually, I did have it in my mind to like use it for e-commerce later. But once I started getting more proficient with marketing and copywriting, I just realized how much money is in this, just from a like marketing perspective, not even business or something, just from the skill of marketing. So yeah, I didn't think of it of I'm gonna use copywriting to launch my business. I mean, that is a thought, but it's not the main thing.
Why did it take 3 months for you to take Hustlers University at the time seriously?
Yeah, it's hard to say why. I think because you just don't know that it's actually possible. So it's very weird how that switched in like almost instantly. Like when I made back then it was only like $250, I believe. But yeah, that was weird. Like it switched. I was like, oh, this is real. Like you can make money from the internet, let's say. And then it just switched, and I started focusing all my attention into it because back then I was only investing about 1 hour a time, 1 hour a day. So, and I got because I got sales calls like in the first 2 months. I just didn't close them, but and that was just from 1 hour a day. And then after that, I just realized, oh, this is real. Like you can actually make money from this, and I just started investing all the time I had into that thing, and just started growing.
So, how different would you say the material is in the real world compared to what you can find on the internet?
Or you mean like online?
Yeah,
Just
anywhere you can find online. So, in your case, your experience with the ecom course, if I can call it that, or just
yeah,
in general, if you try to find information copywriting related on the internet, how different is the real world compared to what you can find out there?
it's vastly different. It's vastly different, I would say. Like perhaps other people teach some of the technical stuff too, fine. But like I said, like a lot of the principles that weren't teach in other courses, those were my downfall. Those were actually like how I lost all the money, and that's how I gained everything in the real world. Um, and that's even aside from just like the level of expertise of the professors, which is insane. Um, so from those aspects, I think those two aspects, I would say it's vastly different actually. Yeah, and also like the way they teach it in a way that's basically consumable for because they've took lessons that other people would take like 2 hours to teach, and they teach them like in a couple minutes, which is pretty insane. Um, so right now it's absolutely insane. I just almost have no words to describe it how powerful it is, and that's completely the truth. I mean, yeah, just can't describe it any different.
Mm-hmm. What has been your experience with the community? Did that benefit you in any way?
Yeah, the I would almost like that's so much such a big impact, honestly. I would say like I wouldn't be here where I am today if I didn't have the community because within that community, let's say I found like a band of people, like a group of people that I talk to almost daily. That has changed everything for me. Like honestly, um, because when you are like a student and you have like ambition and you want to make money, like I mean, a lot of people want to make money, right? Everyone wants to make money, but they don't want to put in the work. They don't take it very seriously. But if you are someone that takes it seriously, like I did, there are very few people that actually understand. There are very few people that are actually willing to sacrifice things that other people wouldn't be able to sacrifice. And yeah, it was very profound to find people like almost exactly like me with the same values and same work ethic inside that community, and basically to like help each other. It's like exponential the way that helped me grow, and not only like in a sense of income, but also just from the mindset perspective, because it's not only when I made my first money, that's not only the point where I had like a sense of like energy and motivation, but it's when you see other people making money, when you see like people you actually know, you talk to every day, make 2 3 times what you make. That's what like lit a fire under my ass to like keep going and just you see what's actually possible. And that's insane to me. That's insane. That's what one of the biggest motivators, like I could say, almost, that got me to where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a very big component of the community. Yeah.
And could you clarify, you're moving to Thailand? Is it with people you've met in the real world?
Yes. Yeah. So that's cool. Yeah.
Okay. Now going back to copywriting aspect, could someone, let's say 13, 14-year-old do this, or does it require a certain experience level?
It doesn't. It doesn't. Like we get that question a lot, um, like in the community, and it really doesn't matter. Like your age, sure. Like I can understand that people may be worried that businesses will be like, oh, but you're only like 14 or something. But eventually, it's all about like your competence level and your level of professionalism. So if you come across as an act like a professional and you do what you're supposed to do, you do what you say, and you provide quality work that provides results, your age is absolutely irrelevant. And we see that's also one of the things that like almost made me angry, right? Like you see like 16-year-olds making more money than you, and like it's like almost like it's not real. You're like, whoa. And when like I'm 22 right now, so yeah, it's almost irrelevant to me, almost, I would say. It's all about how like professional you are and like how skilled you actually are. Maybe it would take more effort into coming across as professional and like being actually skilled. But worrying about your age is, yeah, doesn't really matter that much, I would say.
Okay. When you first started out with copywriting, what was your biggest challenge that you faced?
Yeah, well, my biggest challenge was in the beginning. I remember that because it was closing the call, but it wasn't really closing the call. Because the reason why I didn't close the first couple people was because I was afraid. Um, I was basically afraid that I wouldn't be able to provide the result. And that's also like one thing that kept me back a lot in the beginning. Otherwise, I would have progressed so much faster. And that was, I think it's like called imposter syndrome, right? You just you think that you're not good enough, basically, and you're like, oh no, I need to practice more. I need to write more. I need to learn more, read more books, um, until I'm good enough to actually make money. And that's just not the case, right? You're just basically limiting yourself. And that was the same thing on the calls. When I did get calls, people were like, if anything, um, like strayed from what I was comfortable with, I was like, oh no, sorry, I can't do that. Right? And I was basically saying no to money. That was what I was doing. They wanted to work with me. I was just like, no, sorry, I can't do that. Um, and when like everything changed basically when I changed that mindset. I was like, I'll just say yes, and I'll just learn with speed. And you do, because you're actually way more competent than you think you are, especially when you put in the work every day. And that's when everything changed, honestly. And like recognizing those self-limiting thoughts, like you're literally keeping yourself back. Like, and this isn't just not me. Like a lot of people in the campus, they have this feeling of I need to practice. I need to yeah, I just need to read more books. I need to learn more before I start like outreaching to people and making money. And they're limiting themselves because they don't think they're good enough, but they are actually. If you would just reach out to people, and that's when where the difference was. Where like 16-year-olds are making more money than me at that point. because they were actually taking action and I wasn't. I was just learning and practicing. And that was the difference. I would say that was like the thing that kept me back the most in the beginning. I see a lot of people that have the same thing. So basically recognizing that you do have the skill, and if you don't yet, you will learn it with speed. So yeah, just just doing it. Yeah.
And let's transition that into what are the three biggest lessons you've learned from the real world?
Three biggest lessons. That's a good question. Well, the first thing I would say, because I think back then, I don't know now, but back then the number one rule was always speed. Um, and it's weird. Like a lot of the things that are taught in the real world are never talked about in other communities, and yeah, it just opens your eyes. Like you need to act with speed, learn with speed, and that's one of the things that I mentioned just now. Also, when you have to stray a little bit from what you're comfortable with, you just learn with speed. And right now, I have this as well. I can learn the knowledge of an entire book in a week if I have to. Um, yeah, it's life changing, man. Like if you can realize that and you just act with speed, like you can do something in a week that other people would do in 6 months. So that was the first thing. Just act with speed. I would say the second thing would be to not get complacent. That's one thing that I learned because sometimes when you do get you make money and you become comfortable in a way, and that's where like other people's wins they make a big difference. So when you see like other people like growing, like making three times what you make, you're like, oh, okay, I got comfortable there, and yeah, just kick back in action and start learning again. So that's two. The third lesson I would say is to listen to the right people, and with that I mean like the professors, for example. I didn't question what the professors told me. I just acted. And I think that made a big difference because a lot of people overthink. And it's weird because they think they know better than people that are doing better than them, right? So it's very important that you look at people and you think, and they're actually living the life that you want to live, and you listen to those people. I don't question them. Like everyone that's above me and they're going the direction that I want and they're in ahead of me, I don't question what they tell me. I just act on it very quickly. And that was a big thing for me because that's what I think are keeping a lot of people back. They're just questioning a lot of the things from people that are way ahead of them. As and I see it almost. I would feel arrogant if I would like question an actual millionaire who's telling me what's like what I should do. Like he knows way better than me what I should do. So why would I question him? I just act. Um, and that's a big one that made a big difference for me.
When you talk about speed, did you notice your discipline improving from when you first joined? Because when you said you only put an hour in, maybe that was only because you didn't take it seriously. Or was it actually because you were doing other things with your time that maybe wasted it, if that makes sense?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. And yeah, I was spending a lot of time. Oh man, I'm almost embarrassed to talk about this, but I was just spending a lot of time like watching anime, like hanging out for like no reason with people that aren't really like accelerating my growth. Let's say, yeah, I was just wasting a bunch of time, and you think you have no time, but you do. Um, and like where I am now, it's the before and after is actually it's insane. Like I have the discipline is It's insane almost. Like back then, I couldn't focus for 20 minutes. I really couldn't. And I know a lot of students can't. They're like, this, you put a timer like 25 minutes, 30 minutes, which is low. But you put a timer and you're like 5 minutes, you're already like getting like jittery, you know? And right now I can like focus for 6 hours. Like maybe I'll take a break after an hour and a half, and it's not hard. Like the work is easy. That's how I see it. Like I've mastered the work. It's all just strategy and the mindset right now. Work is easy right now, I would say. But yeah, back then it was pretty crazy how bad I was for, and also just from other aspects of my life, like sleep, horrible, food, horrible. Um, I was training though, so that was one thing that I was doing, but just discipline, sleep, food, it was horrible, which are now like a lot better. So yeah, in that sense as well, like big transformation.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's I'd say very optimistic for people knowing that they can rewire their brain in that way. Because I
yeah,
think I'd say I was similar as well. Before joining, it's all the junk I was consuming, it was felt like it was clogging my brain. But then as I went through the real world, yeah, helped actually start focusing on work, start centering my focus on something throughout time, prolonging that focus on a single thing,
yeah,
improve that wiring in my brain. I don't know how else to phrase it. So it's good to know that you can go from that not being able to focus for 5 minutes to working for 6 hours straight.
yeah. No, definitely.
And now going on to your 2K win, could you break that down? How did you get that? What did that involve?
Yeah, yeah. It's basically a accumulation of retainers and projects. But what is interesting is that I've seen in like the growth of my income, which is like 2K is low for me because the month before it's 3.5. And yeah, I've seen this trend when I look at my graph. It's like I grow and I fall, and every time the fall is higher than the first one. So I know like next month is going to be insane. Um, and it just keeps going like that. Because I remember because I was working a like student job like a couple months ago, and I wanted to make 600 euros. That was my goal in the beginning. I wanted to make 600 euros so I could quit that job. And I made that, I think, 2, 3 months after I made that goal. And I just realized, man, that was not that hard. And yeah, I just kept growing after that.
Now that you're on this trajectory after having joined the real world, where do you see your future heading in, let's say, the next 6 months to 1 year?
Next 6 months, 1 year. Yeah. Honestly, I don't think I do. I have my goals, right? I do have my goals. Um, I never think that much ahead, but I would say like in the next 6 to 1 year, um, it's yeah, it's hard to like say my real. It's almost like people won't believe me when I say my real goals, right? But definitely like the first goal is to get to 10, 20K a month, and then I'm just going to start dabbing into other income streams because you should, at least that's my belief. That's like you should focus on one income stream until it's like until 10K, and then you can dabble into other things and expand that. So then it'll be yeah exponential growth, right? So then and that's over the span of like the next 6 months, let's say, um, like grow to 10K and then just start dabbling in other things.
Okay, so looking forward to part two of this interview where we catch up with you and see how that went.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Great. I'm happy to end there. Where can people contact you?
They can contact me at Belmin Volk at on Instagram, and also Conversion Cupid on Instagram. That's where I post more of the marketing lessons and stuff like that. So that's probably, if you want to get into more marketing stuff, that's basically where you can find that knowledge.
Okay. Both of which will be linked in the description. So anyone who needs a spelling, just check the description. Great. Thank you very much for your time, Belman.
You too, man. Thank you.
All the best to you. Goodbye.